Bonsoir. How are you, dear friends? It's so exciting to launch JCB Live. Come and join us. We are building the most inspiring and phenomenal communities of wine lovers.
You are the wine expert. We just love wine.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Merci beaucoup.
So, Philippe, what is your passion? As we all know, wine is the catalyst of the greatest discussion. We'll be talking wine, but of course food, and naturally history, fashion, art, beauty, fragrance, everything that touches all our nation and senses. But do you see how beautiful that's gonna be? So let's have a toast. Cheers. Shall we add a little Raymond wine in it?
Raymond wine, yes.
Just a little bit. Wow, look at how gorgeous this is. Cognac in the kitchen.
Brucia la terra mia e abbrucia lume cori.
You know, this is like a canvas. It's a form of art.
I'm gonna go for one more too.
We cannot wait to see you there and to inspire all of us and to be inspired by every one of our guests. See you soon. Cheers. Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. This is JCB Live. It's another phenomenal, exciting day. Happy hour. We are today with one of the most incredible leaders of all time in the world of architecture, design, heritage, history. He's a man who's done so many projects that many of you know him. He's done one of my projects, which I'm the most proud of, with a great eye, a great sense of geometry, a great sense of precision, a great sense of symmetry. He has the eye of one of the greatest men that can make a monument a forever structure for the future. His name is Andrew Skurman. He's written many books on the subject. He has his own firm, Skurman Architects, but he was trained by one of my favorite as a Frenchman who designed in front of the Louvre the most incredible pyramid, Mr. Pei. And he's very well known in the world of Italy because he got one of the biggest awards in Italy from the Italians. I'm going to speak about mine because the French government awarded him the highest cultural award ever given as well to a foreign executive. He will talk about it as well tonight. So, dear friends, I'm very pleased to introduce you a fascinating friend of mine, one of the greatest leaders in American architecture, and a man who loves Franco-American culture. This is why, to make him come alive now, champagne, of course. Andy, how are you?
Thank you so much for that very gracious introduction. It's very kind of you.
Well, you deserve not only every word of it, but even more because I've had the pleasure to know you, to do so many amazing things together as friends, and to collaborate on great things.
Yes, and before we start, before we toast, I want to compliment you on pivoting from live settings to virtual settings during the lockdown. So I think you're way ahead of the curve, and I think it's the future. So congratulations.
Well, let's cheer, look at each other in the eye, because otherwise it's not a good sign.
Right.
We all know it's 7 years of torture, so we don't want that to happen.
No.
So Andy, maybe we should start from the beginning. You know, you've had an amazing education. How did you become inspired to be such a great artist?
Well, we can start from the beginning of when I decided to be an architect. In sixth grade, when I was about 12 years old, I was very good in art. My art teacher thought I should really study art. This is getting into junior high school.
Wow.
And I had architects in the family. My Uncle Joe was an architect who went to Columbia. My mother's cousin was an architect who went to Yale. So I knew about architects and admired them. So I told the art teacher, thank you very much, but I think I'd rather go towards architecture. So in junior high school, I was obsessed with mechanical drawing and doing all of that, and followed that into high school, and then ended up going to Cooper Union in New York City.
Great school, of course.
Which is a school where everyone who goes there is on a full tuition scholarship. It's based on a portfolio. And at that time, we studied Le Corbusier. That was the idol of the school, and I love his work. It totally moves me. And after school, I did exactly what you mentioned. I went to apprentice at Ian Pei's office.
That's right.
And after that, after 3 years there, I moved to the Bay Area and worked for Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. But I think choosing the field of architecture had to do with the fact that as a young person, I knew about being an architect. And I think it's very important for young people to be, in front of different professionals to see all the possibilities that they could evolve into over their lifetimes.
That's right. And what do you like the most about architecture? Because for everybody to know, we did a little apartment in San Francisco, and I'm so amazed. We get in, and I say to Andy, would you please come and see that little place? And I know it's not to your caliber, because you got to realize Andy did the Pelican Inn resorts. He did major project. So as a friend, he accepts to come. We get in, and he says, we're going to redo the corridor to come in so we could see the Trans-American Tower. He takes the plan, dear friends, and magically, over 10 minutes, the apartment he drew became the reality.
Yes, and it was, this was before Jean-Charles married Gina. This was their little love nest in San Francisco, and it was a lot of fun to work with them on it.
So how did you know it was what you wanted to do, and what are the things you love the most about architecture?
Well, people are motivated by different things. There are people who are motivated by making a lot of money. There are people who are motivated by being famous. I'm motivated by work. I like getting projects, doing projects. I don't care about the fame or the money as much as having wonderful projects to work on. That's right. What really turns me on. So the new project is always the favorite project, and I go to sleep thinking about those projects, and I wake up thinking about those projects. And the downtime, while I'm lying in bed waking up, or lying in bed waiting to fall asleep, are very valuable in thinking about the three-dimensional qualities of the spaces that I'm creating.
Andy, you're such a great listener. Explain how your brain functions, because I see you with many other friends that you've done their home, their chateau, you've done their palace. I saw you renovating the Symphony in San Francisco. Right. How do you succeed into getting into someone's personality, identity, so to speak, and design?
Okay, that's a great question. So architecture is about putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Yeah. And a lot of the puzzle has to do with what the owner or client wants and what their goals are. So wherever we work in the world, I fly there. We sit down for the weekend. I listen very carefully to how they want their rooms arranged, what rooms are next to which rooms, how big the rooms are, what the site is like, and how are the views, what style do they like, and I come away from that weekend, and I'm able to draw that for them. And then we meet again, and they have a house that they generally like. We do some tweaks, but it usually works.
It usually works.
Yeah.
Well, you're a great listener. But Any example you want to give without names, of course, or name of projects, that you said to yourself, I cannot do it. This is crazy. And you eventually succeeded to drive them to the evolution of their thoughts. Because it's what I have to do a lot with wine.
Sure.
You know, sometimes you say to yourself, I'm not getting there. And I'm not succeeding in that discussion with the wine.
Well, I can tell you sometimes the task seems insurmountable.
Yes.
We were approached by a family that wanted to donate an addition to the Harvard Stadium at Harvard, and they asked me to do the design. Now, I'm just a small house architect, right? But since I trained
Overly humble in that statement.
with big firms, I was ready to jump into an addition to the Harvard Stadium, and we flew there on their Gulfstream jet, and we met with Harvard, and I got checks from Harvard. So but I was ready. You have to be ready to seize opportunities that come your way. So the experience that I gained working for 15 years with IMPE and Skidmore, Owings & Merrill and Gensler,
Yes.
even though it's not what I do now, I do residential, they do commercial, they do modern, I do traditional. It's all experience is valuable. It all helps. It really does.
That's a great lesson for all of us, is
It
to have the
is, yeah.
humility to do something which is maybe not always your style, but you do it and you learn from it. Talking about style, you have great style always.
Thank you.
Impeccably dressed.
It's a great compliment coming from you.
No, but great style. So in architecture and design, when I see a lot of the great things you've done, I recognize your touch. Would you agree that Andy Skurman has a style today?
I would say that there are many styles of architecture.
Yes.
And one can practice in all of them. So sometimes we do a traditional classic home on the outside to fit into the neighborhood. We're doing one right now in Newport Beach. They want something that fits their traditional neighborhood. But inside, they want contemporary. They want it
Great
really
idea.
sleek, simple, clean. We're happy to do that. I draw the line on exteriors. I feel that modern or contemporary, and let's discuss modern versus contemporary.
That's
for
right.
just
That's a great question.
Yeah.
For sure.
Modern is a cleaner, simpler, kind of international style, and contemporary is more Frank Gehry, maybe deconstructivist, and way out there. So if I do modern, I do more of the 1930s modern, which appeals to my sensibility, but it looks terrible symmetrical.
That's right.
So if you're going to do modern or contemporary, you need asymmetry. But what I like, and what I like for my houses, is a symmetrical layout, symmetrical facade. We are symmetrical ourselves, and it's very peaceful and restful to live and look at a house like that. So that's where I choose to do my design. But up until I started my business in the early 1990s, I was doing modern architecture.
Really?
I totally reinvented myself from modern commercial to classic residential.
Well,
30 years ago.
Andy is symmetrical. That means he has two hearts. And I know he does. So, Andy, tell everyone, how does one reinvent oneself? Because you just mentioned something so important. In life, we all got to evolve.
Yes.
We've lived, obviously,
Yes.
months of challenges, difficulties, opportunities. How did you do that? Because that's very impressive.
It's very, very difficult. So I left the corporate world without a lot of money, because in the corporate world as an employee, you just don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I maxed my credit cards, and I maxed everything I could, and I went for it as an immigrant would go for it, arriving in this country. And my heart goes out to the immigrants that are having trouble with the U.S. government here. And the dreamers.
That's
I really
right.
feel for them. But anyway,
I agree with you.
If you have to think of it as being a recent immigrant, and you have to go for it. There is no choice. I wasn't going to work for another architectural firm. It wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, you had done already almost 2 decades.
And I
of it.
wasn't going to do it anymore. So I had to do it. Now my brother said, "You're crazy. Get a job." I said, "No." And I figured out a way. When there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
And you just have to put yourself on the line and do it.
That's so impressive.
The other thing that's interesting is about 30 years ago, I asked my wife Francoise, "Honey,"
Who is French, by the way.
she is French.
And we're going to go to the
yeah,
French side of the
we're
world.
going to do all that. But I said to her, "Honey, do you think I'll ever get a new house to design?" And that's how I felt 25 or 30 years ago. Now, we are building the largest home being built in the entire world today.
And where is it? Which country?
It's in Asia.
Oh, it's in Asia. Wonderful.
But
Congratulations.
thank you very much. But it's amazing to go from maybe 25 years ago when I was doing renovations
Yes.
to now doing that
From
scale.
scratch. Here, you from zero.
This is from zero. It's
Wow.
huge. We're doing 2 gigantic homes right now around the world, and other homes in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone from renovations in the Bay Area to new large homes globally. And it all came from that desire and idea that I wanted to do that work, that classical residential work. It's very important to follow your dreams.
So when you follow your dreams, you know, you arrive to that destination in Asia, you listen to the people's wish, you have a blank piece of paper.
Yes.
How, as I serve you another wine from a pioneer,
Okay.
how do you do, what is the process? Because the process of making wine and creating from the land all the way to the glass is very similar. I think we start with, as far as wine, just to give you
Please.
the illustration, we start with an idea, a moment, a way people are eventually going to enjoy the wine, where, how, what type of seat, chair, comfort, more modern, more classical. And from there, you imagine the scene. And then personally, I stylize wine that way, because I imagine a theatrical scene. How do you do your
Well,
world?
at this point, because of the internet and because of all of the information on the internet, when someone in a foreign country who wants a big French house goes online to look for that, they find me.
Yes.
So I get a call from India. We'd like you to design our house in Delhi.
That's fantastic.
It's just, or they see me in a magazine.
Yes.
And that's how many of the foreign calls come. Locally, we get referrals from former clients, from designers.
But they call you for style,
They do.
which I really
They do.
believe you have a style.
Yes.
So define that style
Okay.
for us.
So my
From Palladian influence to French,
Sure.
because Andy, as a Frenchman, fascinating personally, of architecture and history and monuments, Andy knows it all. He teaches me about French architecture.
well, one thing I'd like to mention is that there are many beautiful French Palladian
That's right.
houses. Palladian really symbolizes a symmetry, a balance. And Palladio was a Renaissance architect from Italy and popularized around the world, especially in England, the rules of ancient Roman and Greek architecture.
That's right.
So those rules came.
So beautiful
And
columns.
they're gorgeous columns. And they came to England first, and from England they came to America. In England they made it out of stone. In America they made it out of brick and wood. But that's called Georgian. And Georgian, that's the Georgian accent on classical architecture. Georgian is English, American Georgian, American. There's French architecture which has a different style. That's my personal favorite. There are different proportions. For instance, in French architecture, the windows are a double square in proportion, which is a beautiful proportion. In Georgian architecture, It's a golden rectangle, which is about a square and a half.
A square and a
It's
half.
actually 1 to 1.618, but it's
Well, it's
a-
I remember a man named Pythagore who kind of came with that golden rule, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
1.618
Exactly.
0.7228. My favorite measure.
well, it's a beautiful shape. So things in France are taller and thinner
Yes.
than in England or Italy. And that's one of the aspects of French classicism that I love. The moldings are different. The moldings are more curvilinear. For instance, in Georgian or English or American paneling, it's a beveled molding.
Yes.
In France, it kind of curves up and has curving moldings. So it's a much sexier set of details. And within French architecture, you have the Louis XV, which is the curviest, and the Louis XVI or Louis XVI, which is closest to England or Italy.
More of a straight structure.
It is more straight
Yeah.
and more geometric.
It's funny because Louis XVI was not a straight guy, but he happens to like straight architecture and furniture.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Louis XVI. as
Oh,
well.
I think so, as am I. I love it.
Well, talking about pioneering, and I want to talk about proportion and energy too. Let's have a toast to this
Okay.
because I want to commend you for what you just said as far as the immigrants coming in. This wine, Andy, is a wine you've never tried yet. We just released it. It's a wine who actually needed a visa to come in.
Really?
It comes from Hungary. It's a Furmint.
Ah.
And it's very unique. It's the grape variety that the Count of Buena Vista, winery you love, and we've seen each other
Yes.
there, created in the latter part of the 16th, 17th century. It's from Tokai. It's a grape variety named Furmint. So I'd love for you, as a great hedonist, to describe it in three architectural worlds. Maybe we'll use architecture as the conduit to describe the wine.
It's delicious.
Well, thank you. Very unusual. So, not Sauvignon Blanc, not Chenin Blanc, not Semillon, not Chardonnay, of course. Furmint. Very historical Tokai grapes.
It's Tokai near Budapest? Or?
That's right.
It is, okay.
Yeah. So, what would you say? Maybe describe it into architectural term. Would it be more Palladium, more Corinthian, more Doric as a column?
I think it's Doric.
Doric for sure, exactly. More straight, more linear.
Well, it has the Doric simplicity. It has the Louis XV or floral quality to it.
I like that.
And it has a Ledoux roundness to it.
Ooh. So you could see that, we could describe wine in any way, shape, or form, and take architecture as an inspiration. And you mentioned the golden rule. You're very careful as you design, and we're going to show everyone your book. Proportion, size of room, creating moment of intimacy, create moment of feng shui. Explain us how you use the secret code of the world, which is the golden rule,
Right.
applied to your design.
Okay, so the golden rectangle or golden rule is a beautiful proportion for the size of a room.
Yeah.
And it's, let's say you have a room 20 feet wide, it's 30 feet long. It's,
Yes.
it's just the right size. It just feels great. I really like a square for the elevation, let's say 20 by 20 if it's a 20-foot room,
Yes.
or 20 by 30 for the long side.
That's right.
But I don't think that it's as beautiful to have a taller than square elevation for the short side of the room. But if you did have a very high ceiling, you could take advantage of it with a vault, which might have a molding at the 20-foot level and then vault up.
Love it.
So that's a way to get more volume.
For sure.
But so we use the proportions in that way.
Impressive.
Even the interior doors. 18 feet is a great living room size. I would highly recommend 18. Fits furniture very well, and that's what you want for your living room. Or
18 feet.
18 feet. Yeah, it's a great room size.
And do you think of feng shui energy flow as you design?
Well,
because, you know, I asked the question because Andy's personal homes that I've visited all are unbelievably well proportioned. And you create a succession of emotion, feelings, up to the grandeur of the dining room, which is where you love to spend some
yes.
quality time, of
Yes,
course, with
yes,
friends and family.
exactly.
So do you want to walk us through that? Because it's such a great advice for people to think of that as a sequence.
Yes. Well, you know, there's the entrance hall to the living room to the dining room. And then on the other side of the house, there's the sequence of the garage to the kitchen to the dining room. So
Yes.
houses are kind of split in two and they meet in the living room, dining room area.
That's right.
And there are many different kinds of floor plans, 1 story, 2 stories, courtyards. They're very exciting.
Yeah.
And the different styles are fantastic. We generally categorize our styles in Georgian, which is English or American, French or Mediterranean, which is Spanish or Italian. We love working in all the styles. If I was an architect in New England, we would be working in the shingle style, the New England style only. And if I was in Southern California, I might only be working in the white stucco, clay tile roof, Spanish colonial.
That's right.
Which came from Mexico. But since the Bay Area doesn't really have an indigenous style, we love to bring Europe here and create a European feeling. That's
right.
our favorite thing to do. And I think that's part of the reason the French really works. Now, what happened in my life with the French, which
we're going onto an exciting territory of love, passion, and mysteries.
Yes. So, in my 20s, when I was at Cooper Union, a friend of mine, a close colleague at school, called and said, "We have a young couple coming, a friend of my friends, and they need a place to stay. I know you have a loft," and lofts were not lofts back then. They were we were hanging out in a factory at that time in Soho.
Yeah, very cool.
Completely morphed into.
Well, you started a trend. That's what everybody wants today.
So it was. So I put up on futons this young man and young lady, and the young man spoke perfect English. He was from Paris, and I would visit him every year and stay with him at his apartment. And eventually, he introduced me to his sister, Françoise.
Oh!
So
I did not know how it started.
One of my best friends lives upstairs in the same building that my father-in-law originally built.
It's amazing.
And it's a family building, and we lived together in separate apartments, but I stayed in his apartment for many years.
Do you believe it was
before
destiny?
that. I think it was.
Do you believe in fate?
I think, yes, definitely.
Do you believe things are written for one another?
I do believe that. I do believe that. But I do think that as we said earlier, you have to be ready to seize the opportunities that help those dreams or that fate come
So
true.
it's French style within your architecture, which is magical.
I fell in love with the French style.
Before Françoise, or thanks to Françoise, it enhanced it. Françoise is this
Before.
beautiful, irresistible French wife who is as well a great artist, a fantastic sculptor, and a great friend.
And a great supporter of mine and great advisor to me. I couldn't do it without her.
That's right.
So
Your muse in many ways.
exactly. So
But you fell in love with French architecture before.
I did.
How was it, Andy, to receive the highest award of any citizen you received from the ministry, from the French president?
Well,
Something
it's
important
a totally great honor.
that we could see
Yes.
right here, which is the green tab on
It's actually
the
a little
lapel.
ribbon that you buy at a shop in the Palais Royal that sells medals and ribbons. It's a great honor. I was recognized for the continuation of the French architectural culture outside of France.
Which is a big deal. I was at the event and I could tell you I had obviously tears of emotion.
Yeah.
This was in San Francisco, of course,
Yes.
in one of the rooms you renovated.
In the green room at the War Memorial Opera House, and there were standing room only. Everybody loved to come. I never expected all those people to show up,
Yes.
but it was a great honor, and it means a lot to me. This ribbon is sewn on every suit,
Yes.
and
Because there's many different kinds of honors. You receive so many. Why is this one so special?
this one came from the Minister of Culture of France, the Monsieur Mitterrand. And to be honored, well, France really knows how to honor and reward people. These awards used to go for military service.
That's right.
Now,
Napoleon was the first man who actually started this whole legion or a legion of medals and ribbons.
And
to
across the
rewards.
street from the Musée d'Orsay is the Museum of the Légion d'honneur.
Yes.
This green one is for arts and letters.
That's right.
So many French people don't even know what it's for, but it's a terrific and wonderful honor, and I'm very, very proud of that. I recently got another honor from the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. It's the top international award for classical architecture.
It's a very big deal.
For 2020. Unfortunately, the ceremony, which was supposed to be in front of 350 people in New York, was postponed because of C-19, and we hope it might happen in October.
But it
or
may be in
later.
front of more people because it's going to be like us, virtually.
You know what? I think it makes sense, but it's a big fundraiser. To everyone who goes there pays $1,000 for their seat.
Yes.
It funds a charitable organization. It's the big annual fundraiser. It's hard to do that virtually.
So, Andy, you part of the board as well.
I was.
Yes, and
I
you
still-
love to serve and you
Yes.
love to inspire.
Yes.
Tell us, as then we'll talk about the
Okay.
book, which is another phenomenal piece of inspiration. Tell us why it's so important and the role you could play for the next generation of architects.
Well, you know, luckily in America we have a system where it's fairly easy to give away some income to charity. It takes it off your taxes or whatever it
Yes.
does. So we think a lot about that. Francoise and I think about that, and so we give to a hospital, and we have funded the Francoise and Andrew Skurman lecture series in French classical architecture at the National New York
Congratulations.
ICAA.
That's a
So
great
that's-
way to give back.
So we're giving back.
Are
in
you
that way.
teaching the lectures as well?
No. Barry Bergdahl, who is the curator of architecture at the Museum of Modern Art, gives the lectures.
Wow, fantastic.
And they're online at classicism.org, the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. So they live online,
Yes.
and they're live in New York, and we're very proud of that, that we were able to do that.
Well, this is wonderful. And I need to tell all of you, I go a lot to those events, and all those people love great wines as well, which
Yes.
is part of the culture we want to live in.
Yes.
You know, from architecture to design to art. So, Andy, what motivated you to want to write a book? And what did you want to communicate? Because this is not just for the architect themselves or the people in that specific profession, it's for everybody.
It
It's an
is.
amazing coffee table book.
And it's got a lot of information. There are publishers that basically put in cover shots, just pretty pictures. But this actually has floor plans, the historical precedents that inspired our projects, so that,
A very iconic piece.
yes, very. and
You have been photographed with this piece.
This is our new logo now.
That's right. It's absolutely fabulous. If you have the book, page 89, this is where you, and this is,
It's a wedding pavilion at the resort at Pelican Hill. And I love hospitality because most of our projects are behind hedges. Nobody sees them but the family or the family's friends. But when you do a hotel or something in hospitality, the world sees it.
That's
and
right.
it's very rewarding for that.
So this is, besides hotel, to show you the symmetry that Andy, obviously, this is the watercolor he would produce as he's doing
Within
home.
our office, we do that.
Yeah. And you are amazing into that process. So Andy, one of the things I love is all your books. So now your own books is actually on the shelf
Yes.
with your incredible library. Explain us how you do research and how you engage your clients
Yes, it's-
into it, because I love it.
You know, Jean-Charles, you have a talent for making wine. You make the most delicious and fantastic
Well, I'm always
wines.
learning, you know.
We all are always learning. But I have a talent where I remember the photographs in the books.
Yes.
So I have a library of 1,000 books or so, and I know where the pictures are.
I know.
So when I hear what a client wants, well, we like French, but we like it more country French rather than formal French, or we like Italian, we like a clay tile roof. I can go pull the photo from the library, and we can go from 0 to 100 very quickly, because this is called historical precedence. Now, some people think, oh, you're just copying these old houses, but it's not true. They're inspiring the new design.
Well, and it's better, as Picasso used to say, to copy than to steal. Everybody copies. The worst is when you start to copy for your own self.
Yes, yes.
But I think you get inspiration. And are people very visual? For you to engage people into a direction, you show them ideas, you suddenly succeed to get where they go.
That's a really great question. So many jurisdictions or cities
Yeah.
require just a front elevation, but you can't make a front elevation really express the three-dimensional qualities of the house. So we use a renderer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who's a great talent. So we present watercolors, three-dimensional perspectives of our initial design. He paints them. We draw them two-dimensionally.
Yes.
He paints them. And it is extremely successful.
So this is where that beautiful image would just show.
No, we do that in-house.
You do that in-house.
But he does the three-dimensional
I see. Models and
the renderings that are fantastic as well. So sometimes what's required by the cities it doesn't work to envision what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make a model, or you need to do a painting to express the beauty of it.
So, Andy, we got to finish this little glass
yes.
so we
So
can go to red.
delicious.
I would like to ask you, is there a house yet of your dreams that you haven't done? Is there something in your mind that you say to yourself,
Yes. That's a winery for you.
oh, fantastic, we are ready. And I believe we kind of designed one together.
We started, yes.
Yes. It's amazing because we started with Andy years ago as we bought a property adjacent to Raymond. And we're rebuilding the road right now. And we designed it all based on symmetry for the twins, for the ladies.
Right.
And everything is about the symmetry, from the sign of eternity to everything joining.
Oh, the whole solar system. You had a whole chart made up.
That's
It's
right.
Fantastic.
And Andy designed it with some palladium ideas and a series of columns where you can wander below, enjoy the outdoor and the wonderful breeze,
Yes.
and at the same time be sheltered of the sun but feel the energy of the site. We will do it.
Yeah, yeah. I look forward to that.
So Andy, as I serve you your last, maybe you want to finish the last
Okay,
sip.
yeah.
I've never seen you so slow at drinking wine, because Andy loves wine. He's into the French culture as much as I am. So Andy, define us, besides architecture, your passion.
My passion is beauty and the creation of beauty, and to make people's lives more beautiful, to have more beautiful lives, to experience all there is to experience in life and really enjoy life to the fullest. And designing someone a house for them and for the future generations of that family is a great honor and really takes that family to future generations.
That's right.
And it's a fantastic thing to be able to do.
Well said. What is the most exciting part? Finally, when you reveal.
What's the most exciting part is designing the project. So the new project is always the most exciting project. But as I said earlier, I go to bed and I wake up thinking about what the design is.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to gestate in my head. It's not just drawing on a piece of paper.
Yes.
You have to envision it three-dimensionally and really come up with a great sequence, as you mentioned, a great exterior. It's an amazing puzzle to put together. So that's exciting for me.
Something I've always wanted to ask you, in fact, because you meet your clients, your friends,
Cheers.
face to face.
Yes.
Have you ever designed anything that is majestuous where you've never met the people? And just imagine who they are and how they can live?
I would say I have. But when I was young and I didn't have clients, I would do that.
Yes.
I would design a house that I wasn't sure who it was for. It was on paper only. But it was, so I created my own projects when I didn't have the clients.
I love it. This is great. Now, Andy, is there anything you wish to share that you've never shared before? Besides many things I could say, as many secrets that I've experienced, fortunately with Andy. So we have a long history together.
Well, I don't have secrets. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I need to keep my clients secret. They are very private. They're very worried about their privilege. And it's even worse in France than it is here.
For sure.
But here, we're in very few magazines because people don't want their names in, and magazines are insisting on names.
For sure.
So, you know, it's secrecy is my middle name at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get me anywhere to brag about a project and get the owner upset. Whereas, you know, they may want another project, they may have a friend. There's nothing in it for me.
Well, where is your biggest satisfaction in life?
In life, my biggest thrill is getting the new project.
Yes.
I love getting the new project. I love starting on it, designing it, drawing it, looking at books, being inspired by the history.
And to dream in many ways.
It's a dream. It's solidifying a dream.
I love that expression. Well, talking about dreams, last wine, you got to describe it in 3 words. Because then I have a very exciting question for Andy. This wine, dear friends,
Yes.
is called a Revenge. As you can see, the Count's Revenge. The Count of Buena Vista died, eaten by an alligator in 1867, escaping the United States to go to Nicaragua. He wanted to be the next Bacardi. And we elected, of course, to do a very powerful, again, very juicy, very giving, very gentle, but yet powerful Napa Valley red blend for it. So
It's delicious,
how would you describe it?
Well, I would start with velvet,
Yes.
and then I would go into red fruit, like a raspberry or
Yes.
currant, and I would finish that off with a delicious one.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
delicious.
So, Andy, thank you for that. Would you serve it to Françoise on a tête-à-tête?
Absolutely. Of course.
So-
She'd be lucky.
Talking about beautiful Françoise because she is with us. Of course, in Paris, she woke up with the time difference to be able to watch it. So, Andy, Frenchman, American man, you married a lovely French woman. I married an American woman. What attracts you besides architecture so much about the French to the point that you love France?
Well, one of the things about French culture is that the general house is very well done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a culture that really values aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, the women are in charge of that home. They're in charge in every way.
I've seen that with my mom. She's on top of it.
They decide the menu, they decide the guests, they decide the decor.
Maybe, yeah, the decor.
And
a lot of the time.
And I had to give up on the design, interior design of my home. I did the interior architecture, but Françoise was in charge of the decoration.
Well, you have this great relationship. Françoise is an artist as well, and she's with us. She got up tonight in the middle of the night in order to be with us here on
Yes.
this amazing JCB Live moment. How do you collaborate together in terms of arts and vision and two different cultures, though very opposite?
Françoise is a great advisor to me, and makes a wonderful home for me. I go to work every day. She decides on menus, on guests, on parties, on. I mean, she wants a party, we have a party. I mean, that's how it works.
That's fantastic.
And one of the things that she does, is that she'll never have a party she'll sprinkle a few clients in, but it's really friends.
That's right.
She's dead against parties with clients. They're welcome in small numbers. And some clients have become great friends.
And does her art,
As you
of
and
course,
Gina.
of course,
Yeah.
does her art complement your architectural design as well? Because the sculptures are insanely fabulous.
They are. I would say so. Yes, she does portraits, which are classic and symmetrical and traditional, and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
They're not trying to be deconstructivist or cubist. They're beautiful and traditional, figurative works.
She has a great studio in San Francisco and in Paris as well. So tell us more about Paris. Is it a place you want to spend more time?
Well, as our firm has become global, I've decided in 2 years to relocate my living into Paris and to open up Skurman Architects
Oh, I love it.
Paris.
So you're going to do both.
We're going to have, the website will be for the Paris office and the San Francisco office, and we're going to continue to be global and grow that even more. And I will be in Paris working on the designs from there, which will be some of the designs here, but mostly the designs around the world, where we have an associate architect from the local country that takes it through the construction documents and the supervision.
Wow.
So we will not stamp those international projects. This will be a Paris design office.
Well, which is the most fun anyhow.
It is a lot of fun.
Well, I want to salute you
Thank you.
and wish you the greatest success, because it's someone bringing better the Franco-American culture than Andy. So we're going to see monuments designed from an American mind within the French landscape.
And I want to thank you for bringing French wines to the United States.
Thank you, Andy. To friendship, we used to say ocean separates us, wine brings us together. We're going to add wine and architecture
Yes,
brings us together.
Exactly. Thank
To
you.
love, passion,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.